What's going on, everybody? This is Smokin Joe, and welcome to another episode of the Smokin Podcast with yours truly, Smokin Joe. And ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for tuning in for episode 1. We had a great listener turnout, and I appreciate all the feedback and all the suggestions that I've got. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't done so already, be sure to check out episode 1 and let me know what you think. And as always, you can follow us on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. And coming soon, the podcast will also be available on Spotify. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to go on each of those and like and subscribe to both TikTok and YouTube specifically. And ladies and gentlemen, I gotta say first and foremost that it has definitely been might as well say a nice week of fall. And it's already, here in the mountains of eastern Kentucky, we're already taking the polar plunge into winter as we speak. Currently right now, I know by the time you listen to this show, it'll already be the next day, but currently right now it's been sleeting and transitioning over to snow, and it's already got me in the mood to already break out Christmas movies, and heck, might as well even put up the dang tree for all I care. And I tell you, it don't feel like that fall's even lasted long enough. I feel like every year, fall and spring always get cheated. And they're honestly the two most underrated seasons out there. And I want you guys to start out, let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree that fall and spring are definitely underrated and feel like they deserve a little bit more love and a little bit more appreciation. Because the weather, you can't beat it. And the nature of it, too. Or the nature of both of them, rather. Summer's nice and all, but it's just too hot. And then winter, of course, too cold, and the snow, it gets depressing after a while. I mean, don't get me wrong, snow's pretty to look at, but, it kind of gets old after, let's say a month or so. So those two are definitely overrated. So let me know what you think. Do you think that spring and fall deserve more love? Or how about this? Let me know what your favorite season is and why is that? And going on to my next rant. And I'm sure that many of you have already seen this already, but it looks like that Grand Theft Auto 6 has now been delayed once again. And I would just say by the time that it would get released, that I'll probably have grandkids by then. And right now it is showing that the release date for Grand Theft Auto 6 right now as we speak is now set for May 26th of 2026. And this is all starting to sound really familiar because I remember back in 2018 when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, and it just kept getting delayed over and over and over again. And by that point, I was ready to do some rootin' tootin' cowboy shooting, and they just kept delaying it and get the hype up and get everybody all excited, and then delayed once again. I guess that's the one thing that really gets on my nerves about Rockstar is they would build up this hype, and it gets closer and closer to the original release date. They're like, oh, it's going to be delayed again. And here we are now. So, I mean, it's just one thing that really grinds my gears about Rockstar is they get this hype going and then, boom, it's delayed again. And, ladies and gentlemen, while we're on this discussion, let me know, out of all the Grand Theft Auto games and all the Rockstar games ever made, which one would be your favorite? Or which one would you consider to be your favorite? And my personal favorite, honestly, it's actually a toss-up between Max Payne and Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Both of those games, I'll always remember them being two of my favorites for PlayStation, and I still play them even today, just to kind of take a trip down memory lane. And Rockstar has always been one of my favorite video game companies, along with Rareware. And I never get tired of playing any of their games. I'll never forget the first time that that I ever played Grand Theft Auto 3 whenever I was a kid. I remember my grandma got so mad at me because she came in the room and, saw me playing the game, obviously. And she saw me take somebody out of their car, murder them, and then steal their car and take their money. And she's like, I never want you to play that game ever again. And, of course, I'd play it behind her back, but if I see her coming into the room, I'm like red alert and then change it to something else, pretend I'm watching TV or whatever. But she definitely did not like that game or anything like that at all. She was still used to games like Pac-Man and Donkey Kong and Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt, that whenever it came to video games with blood, gore, and violence, that was a game changer. And any of those games, anytime I was ever at her house, they were strictly forbidden. And Grand Theft Auto 3 was definitely, when she seen me play that game, she seen red. Like, I'm really shocked that she didn't take the game and just rip it right in half, or break it right in half, but luckily she didn't. But I was really, really shocked that she didn't. But like I said, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to let me know what your favorite Rockstar game is, and whether it's in the Grand Theft Auto series, Max Payne, Red Dead Redemption, Bully. I'll tell you another one that I really enjoy is L.A. Noire. It was definitely a game changer, but it definitely has the same feel as games like Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption, but it's set in the 1950s. And you play as a detective, and it's like a murder mystery kind of deal. And I don't know, it was definitely a good change of pace, in my opinion, but that was actually a game that I actually didn't start playing not long ago. And I enjoyed it. And if you haven't played it yet, be sure to check it out. You can actually download it on Xbox Marketplace, but it's a good time. Well, folks, we're going to be taking our first break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about some new additions into the fast food world, including the Baja Blast Pie, and all this craze going on with these Thanksgiving dinner subs. And we're also going to be talking about some amazing things that have happened on this date, which is November 9th. And we'll have plenty more to talk about, so be sure to stay tuned, and we will continue forward. This is Smokin' Joe's Smokin' Podcast. Welcome back, everybody, and like I said before we cut to our break, we're going to be talking about some of the food trends that is going on right now, and let me just say they're a little bit on the bizarre side, if you ask me. I mean, they've got some good things about it, and there's also some kind of weird things about it, but I'll go over that in more detail here in just a second. But as you notice in other YouTube videos and commercials, that restaurant chains such as Arby's, Jimmy John's, and others are introducing their own Thanksgiving subs. And it has everything ranging from turkey to stuffing to cranberry sauce. It's legit like a Thanksgiving dinner made onto a sub sandwich. And I want to hear from you guys. Do you think that's a good idea? I mean, would that be something that you would try? And if you have tried it already, feel free to share your experience and let us know what you think. Do you think it was a good thing? Do you think it was kind of weird, or whatever you want? I mean, personally, I think, I haven't tried it myself, but I think that's a good idea, especially for people that, let's say, to those that don't feel like doing a big Thanksgiving dinner, they've got that as an option. And I feel like they should let that be available from Thanksgiving until Christmas, at least. Or at least, if they do a Christmas one, have a ham version and also have a turkey version. That way, you have a little bit of a variety. And, I think that's something they should keep, at least until after the holidays is over. That way, anybody that don't want to fix Thanksgiving dinner, they can enjoy it. Or Christmas dinner, rather. Now, on to another food trend that's going on right now. At Taco Bell recently, they have just released a Baja Blast Pie. Now, first and foremost, besides regular Mountain Dew, Baja Blast is one of my all-time favorites. I mean, I love it. Whether it's buying it out of the store, buying it from Taco Bell, or even doing my own little DIY version, which all you do is take Mountain Dew and either Glacier Freeze Gatorade or Blue Raspberry Powerade, and there you go. You got your own homemade, homebrew Baja Blast. But I can't really imagine eating it in a pie, though. I mean, it looks presentable. I mean, it looks legit. But I just don't know about eating it in pie form. Now, a few months ago, they had it in gelato. Now, that I would try because, it sounds amazing in gelato. But I don't know about going as far as eating it in a pie. That'd be the only game changer. And once again, to those of you who have tried it already, or do you think, like me, do you think it's kind of a weird idea? Just feel free to let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. And, like I said, this is your show too. This is the whole purpose of this podcast, to hear from, our listeners and viewers alike. If there's something that you want to share, or if you want to share your opinion, just feel free to let me know. Or as we say here in the mountains, give me a holler. And now on to movies that were released on this date many moons ago. Released on this day in 1984, the original Nightmare on Elm Street starring Robert Englund and Johnny Depp was released. And this is actually the debut movie of Johnny Depp. And in case you're wondering which character that he played, he was, of course, the kid that got sucked into the bed. And then next thing you know, he turned into a bloody cyclone. Also starring in the movie, we have actors and actresses such as Heather Langenkamp, John Saxon, and Sue Garcia. Also released on this date in 1988, the original Child's Play. The movie about the killer Ginger My Buddy doll was released on this day in 1988. And needless to say, it's kind of similar to Toy Story, but the complete opposite happens to that Andy, which Chucky turns evil. Andy in Toy Story, he had the good life with his toys, and then you had Andy in Child's Play. Of course, his tried to turn against him and gut him like a fish. And I remember, the first time I was introduced to Chucky, I was probably 6 years old. And needless to say, at that time, I was pretty terrified of him, because, think about it. I was 6 years old, and me and him, we stood about the same height, even though I was a little bit chunkier. But, he used to terrify the crap out of me. And I remember my mom, she used to work at this little video store, and she had a Chucky doll that she kept behind the counter. It was like a promotional thing. And anytime that I would act like a hellion, that she would get that doll out, and I would run to the back of the store like I was terrified of Chucky. But, now that I'm 32 years old, of course he don't bother me now, but I can just punt him like a football if I wanted to. But, once again, released on this date in 1988, the original Child's Play was released in theaters. And speaking of on this date, 1 year later, in 1989, a big historical event had happened. And that was the fall of the Berlin Wall. Once again, it happened on this day in 1989. And speaking of important dates, I wanted to remind everyone that Tuesday is Veterans Day. And I want to challenge all of you guys to be sure to go out in some way and give thanks to the veterans who have done so much to help keep us safe and help keep our country protected. Whether it's through a Facebook post or you actually walking up to a veteran and say thank you for your service and thank you for everything that you've done to help keep us safe and for protecting our freedom. Give thanks to the veterans out there because they really deserve it for all that they've done, for all that they've sacrificed for. And like I said, it's going to be my challenge for all of you guys for Tuesday as we will be commemorating Veterans Day. And coming up, ladies and gentlemen, whenever we come back from our break, we're going to be talking about a publication that will be coming to an end after so many, after over 2 centuries. And do you think that certain people post too much information on social media? And I'll talk more about that in detail whenever we come back from the break. And this is Smokin' Joe's Smokin' Podcast. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. And I wanted to remind everyone once again that if you have a topic or something that you would wish for me to discuss on a future episode of Smokin' Joe's Smokin' Podcast, feel free to let me know by posting in the comments below. Or you can also send me a message on the official Facebook page and let me know what you want me to talk about, or if there's something you would like for me to address, feel free to let me know. And also, it's an open window if there's any suggestions or any feedback that you would like to give. Feel free to utilize the comments and or Messenger and let me know. Let me know what you think. What you think of the podcast. And if you've enjoyed it or not, or if there's things I need to work on, because this is a brand new rodeo for me, so I'm still trying to get my feet wet with the podcast stuff, so just bear with me. I know it's still far from perfect, but I'm only human. I'm no robot. Also, guys, something I want to do, continuing on with future episodes of the podcast. This is actually something that I've done on previous radio shows that I've done in the past. If you would like for me to send you out a shout out on future episodes, whether you're celebrating a birthday or a wedding anniversary, you just want to say, hey, I'm enjoying the podcast, give me a shout out, feel free to post those in the comments below as well. If you want me to send you a customized shout out, feel free to let me know. After 208 years, the Farmer's Almanac will be hanging up the hat. And the question is, why? After so long, why are they stopping now? And the reason why is because of financial challenges amid a chaotic media environment. In a farewell piece entitled A Fond Farewell, editor Sandy Duncan and editor emeritus Peter Gage said, though the almanac will no longer be available in print or online, it lives on within you. The annual publication, based in Maine, has provided readers with weather predictions, gardening advice, and other information since 1818. And ladies and gentlemen, there's still people even nowadays, up until, basically now, that's relied heavily on the Farmer's Almanac to determine what the weather's going to be like, in the upcoming months, what to expect out of this winter. And, it's just kind of sad to see it go after it's been in existence longer than I've been alive, or actually longer than any of us have been alive, because I don't think there's anybody out there that's been alive for 208 years, and I sure as hell don't want to live that long, but, that's just me. But it's just sad to see it go. But, if you're like me, if you live here in Eastern Kentucky, you can always rely on nature to decide what the weather's going to be. Rather than just flipping on the TV and just watching your local meteorologist, you can always rely on things such as a woolly worm, or the seed from the inside of a persimmon. Or to all my Pennsylvania people, one day a year, which is on Groundhog Day, February 2nd. A furry creature helps to determine the weather if he sees a shadow or not. And out of all these sources that nature has to offer, nothing can quite compare to the Farmer's Almanac. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to hear from you guys now. Who all in the comment section or watching this podcast right now utilizes the Farmer's Almanac? And how long you've utilized it? Feel free to share your story about your experience with the Farmer's Almanac. And before we dive deep into this next topic, something that I want to share that I've noticed on Facebook the other day, and I really, this is a perfect example as to people sharing too much information on Facebook that I would never want the whole world to know or to even see. So there was a lady, which I'm not going to mention her name, but she had a video on her page that showed her at a campground showing us how to empty a compost bucket. And, when I get on Facebook, the one thing I want to see is people share recipes or funny videos or just to keep up with what everybody else is doing, whether it's family or friends or whatever. I don't want to see somebody empty out a bucket of crap, especially their own crap. Nobody wants to see that garbage. I mean, who in their right mind would share something like that? And thank goodness I don't know this person personally, but, no pun intended, no crap like that needs to be on Facebook. And, literally crap. Nobody wants to see that. Yeah, some people might find it to be, very informative, to those that's living off grid that wants to know, hey, how do you empty out a compost toilet? Well, maybe show that at your own time, but not broadcast it for the whole world to see, because nobody wants to see your excrement, you know what I mean? Nobody wants to see yesterday's Meals on Wheels, that's just, it's just nasty. That's the only thing I have to say. But, that right there, like I said, perfect example as to, some people share way too much information on social media. And, I know that I'm kind of preaching to a crowd, I've done the same thing, which I've not went that far, but I've used Facebook or social media to vent off my problems and stuff, and I'll admit that, I try not to go into no details about my situations, because, I don't want everybody to know what's going on in my personal life. But going that far and that's just something I'll never understand. And, folks, let me know what you think. Do you think that some people post way too much information on Facebook? And if you have a story that you would like to share kind of similar to what I have, feel free to, this is your all show too. Feel free to chime in with whatever you want and let me know what you think of each topic that I discuss. And ladies and gentlemen, it's getting to be that time once again. We're going to be taking another break here shortly. But when we come back, their next order of business will be talking about, music-wise, be talking about, new music being released by Foo Fighters. I will go over that more in detail here very shortly. And their new track that I've absolutely fell in love with. And also, why do so many people hate Nickelback? And you'll be hearing my take on that whenever we come back. So be sure to stay tuned. This is Smokin' Joe's Smokin' Podcast.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. And before we cut to our break, I mentioned that Foo Fighters have released some new music that you ought to check out. And that, my friends, is a new single called Asking for a Friend. And those of you who have been a fan of Foo Fighters since 1996, since they formed after the breakup of Nirvana, feel free to go check it out. It reminds me a lot of their old music. And I know that you guys, especially those of you who are hardcore Foo Fighters fans, would not be disappointed. And it's one of those songs that it packs a punch. It's real sentimental. Like it plucks at the heartstrings. But I don't want to give too much away because I want you to experience it for yourself. So if you haven't got to check it out yet, be sure to go on YouTube or wherever you listen to music at and go give it a listen. As many of you know, from a couple weeks ago, we have lost the original guitarist and founding member of KISS, and that is Mr. Ace Frehley, who passed away on October 16th at the age of 74. Well, just recently they have announced his official cause of death, as his death has kind of remained a little bit of a mystery just over the last little bit, which, he has been in failing health just in the last, little while, but they say that his official cause of death was resulting from a fall, according to the Morris County Medical Examiner's Office in Morristown, New Jersey. And said the manner of his death was ruled an accident and said that he died from blunt trauma injuries. And, just even though it has been as long as it has now, it's still a shock to me that he's gone. KISS will forever be one of my favorite rock bands of all time, and it just... I know I didn't get to listen to them when they were at their prime because I wasn't alive at that time, but, listening to a lot of their older music, it's definitely heartbreaking to know that he's no longer with us, and it's sad. So, long live Spaceman. Thank you for your contributions to the KISS universe and also for the rock and roll universe as well. And continuing on forward with the rock music genre, and we're going to be diving more into sort of kind of modern day rock, and this is something that I've wondered for the last, I would say probably 14 or 15 years, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hatred for what I'm getting ready to say, but why in the world does a lot of people hate Nickelback? It's just like the hatred just started, overnight, and that's just something that I've, kind of had a hard time wrapping my head around. Don't get me wrong, it's... Whenever I've had people say, ha ha ha, Nickelback sucks, why would anybody want to listen to that crap? But, looking back, everybody used to think that Nickelback was one of the best rock bands of all time back when they was in their prime in the mid-2000s, with songs like Rockstar and If Everyone Cared and just to name a couple. Or This Is How You Remind Me, which is probably the number one song. There's just several to account for, which I've not really kept up with much of their recent music, but, back when they was in their prime, they was actually really good, but then just all of a sudden, everybody just hated the ground that they walked on. Then they made it a big deal saying that, oh, Trump's got more likes on Facebook than Nickelback does, and I'm like... What is your all's beef toward Nickelback? Why do you all hate them so much when they used to be the big deal back in the mid-2000s? It's just something that I've just never understood, and, and I probably never will. I like their music in the past, I will admit that. I don't listen to them much anymore, just kind of, every once in a while, but I'm not going to say that I hate them, because... Heck, their music, I didn't have no problem with it. And still don't, for that matter. I just don't understand why that everybody's just kind of all of a sudden just started to hate them, what did Chad Kroeger ever do to you? I don't understand. But now I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think of Nickelback. Whether you love them, you hate them. Right now is your time to shine. Let me know what you think by... telling me in the comments below if you're on TikTok, YouTube, or Facebook, or wherever you're watching the video from right now. Let me know what you think. And tell me about your hatred of Nickelback, or if you love Nickelback, just feel free to share what's on your mind. And folks, this is going to wrap it up for episode 2 of Smokin' Joe's Smokin' Podcast. And be sure to stay tuned for the next episode, which will be coming up here very, very soon. And I'm not going to give no spoiler alerts, but the next episode, it's really going to hit home. There's going to be some personal topics I'm going to open up about. And this is one that you definitely want to tune in for, just talking about, just some things that have been going on in my life just in the last couple of years, and I don't want to go into too much detail right now to give it away, but this is one that I encourage a lot of you to tune in for if you can, and just kind of hear from my side of the story. But I want to thank each and every one of you guys for tuning in and listening to me this time. And also for episode 1, because we had a really good turnout on all platforms. And I like to see it happen again with episode 3. So be sure to tune in. And also keep up with updates on the Smokin' Podcast Facebook page as to when that episode will be uploaded. It'll be available on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. So I hope you guys have a great week. And we'll see you all on the next episode. So, thank you all so much once again, and we will see you next time.